I have to tell you that it's not easy for me to take a long break and then show up again. For some reason, there's a piece of me that just wants to recluse. And once I started, it's hard to stop it, but the future calls. So here's what I want to share right now. Over the holiday of Shavuot, it's accustomed to stay up all night, the first night, and study Torah. It's kind of mandatory for men, even though a lot of them don't do it. It's very optional for women, but I was with a close friend who wanted to study, and we opened up a deep discourse called a Maamar of the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, on the idea of, it was called Moses rose up to Sinai. And the whole thing, it was mind-boggling. We learned all night. We started at about 11:30 after the meal, and then we went until 5 in the morning, and then we continued the next day in the evening. Then we continued the next day, the following day, until we finished. And during and since then, I've not been able to really let go of. I just keep pondering and digging into and thinking about what was said. So I want to give it over in a short form. I mean, I have to learn the whole thing again if I really. Here's one of the big secrets of Torah, and especially authentic Kabbalah, Hasidus, that the first time you learn it, it's just like, there's actually a term for it, l'kar v'laseichel. It's touching the brain. It's just coming. It's like a new concept, new words. It's getting introduced to you. It's only the second time, then the third time, then the fourth time that it actually the mind starts to open and receive this incredible light. But I'll do my best in a short synopsis here, just first pass, and then I'm going to tell you why this is so important and what I am myself aiming to do with it and what I would suggest for anybody to do with it. So how do I start here? So the discourse, the mimer, began with the idea of the counting of the Omer, the counting Sphira, which is the 49 days from Passover to Shavuos, Pesach being the liberation, the redemption from Egypt, and Shavuos being the anniversary of the giving of the Torah. And every year, thank you, Lumino Mind, every year when a holiday runs around, and this is also a deep secret, but not as deep as the one I'm going to share with you. Every year when the holiday, even including your birthday, any day, but especially holy days, when it rolls around again, it is the same light, like a template, the same light that's coming through on a completely deeper and different level, a new level, because we keep spiraling up. That's why we visit, parenthetically, in our own lives, we tend to revisit the same issues, the same challenges, even after we think we've resolved them. But that is because we're going to a deeper level. We're going to a higher level. The spiral is going up and out, up and out. This will not last forever, but it will last until the birth, until the redemption. Anyway, so every year after Pesach is over, actually starting from the second night of Pesach, we start to count. It's called counting Sphira, the counting of the Omer. The Sphira is the word for God's divine attributes that he uses to create the world. So we have those reflected within us as our 7 powers of the soul, and each power is made up of all 7, so it's holographic. So if you have the power of chesed, of loving kindness, the first one, the outward flow, that's the light of creation, or in ourselves as well, it's the light of creation, the light of love flowing out of the self. So that has different ways of expressing itself. One is just pure flow. Another one is maybe more restraint, more discipline. Another one is compassion. There are all these. This is not a lesson on the spheros or the Kabbalistic powers of the soul, but we count 7 times 7. So for 49 days, each day we go through one of these attributes. And the reason that we do it is, and often most of us, I think, certainly myself, we do it because it's a mitzvah, we're supposed to do it. So we don't want to forget. If you forget, you say the blessing every night, but if you forget one whole day, you don't get to say the blessing. So we do our best just to at least say it. But now I have a completely different understanding of what it is, that actually because we have had a new energy of redemption, the redemption from Egypt, the redemption from all exile. Egypt was both the prototype of all redemptions and the beginning of this long redemption process that we're in the final days of now, that we're players in now. So we have the opportunity to take that light and that energy that's come in the new level of the spiral and bring it in to our hearts in these 49 different ways, and to really integrate it until it's saturated to the level where we are bonded with God in an incredibly deep love relationship. So that deep love relationship and the energy of the redemption are kind of like a sandwich that focus from these two different sides on this 1 in 49 aspect of the personality. This is called in Hasidus the Nefesh Bahamas, the animal soul, but it's really our personality. We're rectifying all these 49 core aspects of our personality. What does that mean? We're rectifying them. We're using that new energy of redemption that just came in to catalyze, to arouse the love from within our hearts, to focus on that piece of our personality and up level it so that it's connected to divine power and divine love. And we're doing that for 49 days. And this is the ultimate pathway to what is going to get us out of this contraction, expansion, birth canal into the freedom of what the redemption is meant to be. So that's just the prelude here. Then the Rebbe talked about a famous verse that I've thought about many times, which goes, Kamayim panim l'panim kein leva adam la'adam. Like water reflects the face that looks into it, like you're looking in water like a mirror, so it's reflecting back the face. You're smiling, it reflects the smile. You're frowning, it reflects the frown. So like water reflects the face, so too the heart of a person reflects the heart of another person. So I learned this a long time ago, and it's also a big secret, but it's not the ultimate secret that I'm going to tell you. But that big secret is that when you have a certain feeling towards someone, it will reflect back. Now, if they have a feeling toward you, maybe they have a negative feeling toward you, so you're reflecting that back. But the secret here is that whoever has the stronger feeling rooted more in the truth and the love of the heart and the divine power of the heart. Hi, Gila. I'm very emotional today. I was just telling Gila. So the one who holds that deeper soul heart anchor for long enough, that vibration, that's the one who's going to prevail ultimately, because that's the cosmic principle that, like water reflects the face that you show to the water, so the heart of a person reflects the heart of another person. But then, and this is again, I preface by saying that I've only learned it once. It took me about 8 hours with a friend, and it's only touching the surface. But here's the ultimate secret that I want to share with you, and then I'll just talk a little bit practical about it. The ultimate secret is that, and the Rebbe explained this, and it's mind-blowing, that it arose before creation began. It arose in God's will, his infinite uncompound will, within his light called the Orion Sofa, that's compared to water. Why is it compared to water? Because water is pure. It's a pure medium, and it's reflective. So when you look at the water, what you see is what you look in the face that you're looking at it with. So the Rebbe is comparing this to the Orion Sofa, the infinite light of God, that it's a reflective medium, absolutely infinite, divine, undifferentiated. It's called Kol Yachol. It's total omnipotence. It's so undifferentiated. It's so compelled by nothing. It's so, the word in Hasidus, in Kabbalah is pashut, in a state of great pshitus. It's like ultimately not made of anything. So it can reflect anything, or it can express anything. So imagine the infinite light of God at the first moment of creation, before creation as we know it begins, way before, but that when God, instead of just being unto himself, decides to create and starts by shining this infinite light like water, like a reflective medium, a reflective surface. So what happened within that reflective surface, within that divine light that's infinite in time and space and beyond anything to do with time and space? So it arose in God's will, ala b'ritzono, that he wanted to have the pleasure of the work, the co-creative work of the souls in the lowest world, and that he would therefore, and I'm paraphrasing here, give the power to those souls so that they can look at the Orion Sofa, look at God, look at the universe, look at heaven, show a face, and that face is then showing up in the water in the infinite light of God and shining down. Now, the Rebbe explained that when a person's looking at water, it's actually, the face actually becomes part of the water. The water now has a face in it. But in the case of a person and water in the physical world, it's temporary, and only someone who's looking can see that face. And when the person walks away, the face goes away. Not the case with the infinite divine light. When you show your face, panim, which is also the word for panemius, for your inwardness, your deeper, most inner self. When you show that face to the Orion Sofa, to God, it imprints. And this is what rose in God's will, that it will be like this, that it imprints and it becomes part of the Orion Sofa, your face, not just the way your face looks, the aspect at which you're gazing up. You could say the way that you're experiencing life, the story that you tell yourself, the emotions that you have, the way you present yourself in this undifferentiated, reflective, open, infinite light. It becomes part of that infinite light, but not temporarily, and not only to a person who's looking when someone's looking, but that's what shines down now into the world. And the Rebbe explains this backwards and forwards and so many different ways, that the power, and it's so beautiful, it's so heart opening and mind bending. And again, I'll repeat third time, I have to learn it again, Lenator, because I know how this works already. I've been learning this, authentic Kabbalah Hasidus for so many decades now. And I know that when you connect with it deeply enough, usually on the second pass, it starts to open in front of you, and the light starts to rise up, and the truth starts to rise up and connect with you. It's also a divine power. It's God connecting with you. It's called Divrei Elokim Chaim. You can interpret that as the words of God are alive, or you can interpret it that it's the words of the living God, and it's both. The Torah compares this learning with a divine embrace, where you're inside of God because He's holding you as you're learning His Torah, His secrets, and He is inside of you as your mind and heart are encompassing that energy, that presence. So this is the deepest secret, that the world was created, the Rebbe even continues to explain not only that Allah B'Ratzona, that it arose in His desire, that we should be able to initiate, that all arousal from above, here I am quoting, should be initiated and follow an arousal from below. And the arousal from above, meaning the way that God treats the world, which flows down, hamshacha, should be as a result of what is flowing up. This is what arose in God's primordial will before creation. But he says even more, that the reason that this arose in His will is because it already is like that in His essence. I'm going to cry. I'm going to try not to. Because it already is in His essence. And before He created the world, which is interesting because there's no before and after on that level, there's no time. But we still have to have something to hang our brains on to start to understand so we can go deeper. But before He created the world, the reason that He created the world was because of the intense, supernatural, infinite pleasure that He was already experiencing at the avoda, meaning the co-creative partnership and service of the souls. And it also says, who did God consult with on creating the world? That's a strange question, right? Because there's only one God and there was nobody else. There was nothing else. And it said, the answer is with these neshamos, with the souls of the tzaddikim, of the righteous. What does that mean? That even though God is uncompound, unique, one, only, I agree, Gila. It's like my brain and my being can't let go of it. It's like it's so intense. And it means so much. It's not just spiritual. This is the ultimate secret of the formula. We can walk around feeling like, I know I left something out just now. Let me go back to that God's essence, with whom did God consult about creation? The souls of the tzaddikim that weren't created yet. We're taught that the soul is creation, but the core of the soul, the very essence of the soul, is not a creation. It's a piece of God's essence. So you could say keep in mind that these vast truths cannot be simplified, and you don't want to grasp it. And no, I get that now, and that's what it is. But you do want to grasp it, and then but hold it loosely and know that there's so much more. Because as we evolve, I've had experiences in the last few months, in a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, predicated by deep upset with God and life, and that I expressed, that I in like, with God. And at some point in those experiences recently, something opened, and I saw and experienced and knew things that I never imagined existed. And I know, because that's what started happening, that it's just going to go level after level. We have the intense new experience, and then we integrate it, and then we take it on the road. Then we have another challenge. It's all a plan. It's all a part of the metamorphosis. But the bottom line here is that, I'm sorry for closing my eyes. I do that when I teach. It's hard not to, because I'm going into the text, into the feeling. And I'd love it if you guys would share in the chat, like, what are you getting from this? Are you getting anything? Let me know if I'm explaining it. Not only did God create the world with this formula that all that comes from heaven is initiated on earth. I mean, once the original creation was done, and even before that, because who did he consult with? The souls of the tzaddikim, from the pleasure that he was taking already in the avoda, the co-creative service of the tzaddikim, before they even existed, before anything existed. Bit of a mind bender. But the reason that it arose in his desire is as close as it gets to the essence of the soul. What your soul desires is your reason for being here, because it is who you are. At the bottom line, obviously, you have to go deeper than pizza or, revenge or a good night's sleep. But what we authentically desire, that's who we are. That's why we're here. And that's because it's that way with God. So when it arose into the world, the word again is alabertsono, like a rising up into the desire. So he became conscious of the desire to take infinite pleasure from a partnership with the souls, the holy souls that would co-create the world. And in doing that, he gave the power in the hands of those souls, creating the formula, initiating the formula, that it would always all starts here. And that is because that is actually the way that it is in God's very essence, that there is a part of God. God, Adam and Eve are often compared to God and the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, and the Shekhinah. It's all one God. But Adam, the Torah says, was created male and female. And then God said, and this is the one time in the Torah that this phrase is ever used. It's the phrase, this is not good. God said it's not good for man to be alone. And so he separated off the male and the female. And ultimately, the female's from a higher source. Although the female took a subservient role, the female ultimately, called Malchus, whatever, won't go into that now. Not a Kabbalah class person. Well, it is, but not in this way. But ultimately, that level will rise to the level of crown, higher than the original source or structure from which it was extracted. You could say that that's the part of this. You could say that the souls. You could say this. Just hold it loosely, because anytime the ego gets in, we're on the wrong track. But at the deepest level, at the core level, what's propelling us, the souls, are the part of God that is raising God to an even higher level. These are things we don't normally say. But there's no other way. There's no way to not see it like this. Again, with deep humility and openness, and knowing that, as we are now, we can only get a glimpse. But it's unbelievable. I've never seen it explained like this, so clearly, so deeply, so, that water, the face that is shown to the water, kamayim panim panim kain lev ha'adam la'adam. Like the water is reflected in the face, so to the face of a person, and the inwardness of the person reflecting up, or gazing into the heavens, gazing into the Orion Sofa, gazing into life and saying whatever we're saying, our judgments, our fears, our wants, our play, all of us, our loves, our hates, the way we interpret things to be, it's actually imprinting on the Or Ein Sof, the light that has no beginning, no end, no dimension, no definition, no limits. And it becomes part, the Rebbe says it becomes literally a part of the Orion Sof, your face. And then that's where everything comes from. The Orion Sof is where everything comes from that we experience down here. So, guys, hi, Tom. Victim no more. Victim no more. We're a victim of what we're creating. Did we know? Did we have this consciousness? No, because we were deliberately created like caterpillars, full of stuff. That's the snake in the garden, all for a purpose. So much to learn about this, so much to understand and integrate about this. We'll keep it on this one point for now. This is the ultimate secret that the it's like there is a rope from the highest heights of God, isness, beingness, one, beyond creation, infinitely beyond creation, and it hangs all the way down into your physical hand, your mind, heart, and body, your opinions, your ego, your identity, what you're going to believe, what you're going to lean into, what you're going to resonate with, and how you're going to respond or react. And that hand holding that rope gets to pull heaven down to earth in the way that you, I won't say want it, but the way you do it. And when we say that consciousness creates or co-creates, I say that all the time, but it's not a new thing. It's just that we haven't been very conscious. Our consciousness has been creating all along because that's the ultimate secret. That's the structure that God created. That's the way he designed the world. Alibert Sono, it arose in his desire based on his essence. That is who God is. That this aspect of God that is embedded in the souls at their very, very core, they're the ones that have that's the aspect that makes things move. That's the aspect that gets to choose. That's the aspect that evolves. That's the aspect that's hidden and concealed and buried under this millennia of muck and trauma and pain and reactivity and illusion and delusion and exploitation and AI and whatever you want to give it, any names you want. It's the same basic energy taking a million different forms with the same agenda to hide, to conceal. Ultimately, it was all created by God. That's the truth. There's nothing else. But this is the part of God. You look in the mirror. That's the part of God that has the ability, the power that is constructed this way. Carries this very divine essence to make the change, and it's not by being a victim of things, even though that's really, really easy. Take it from me. That was 2 years ago when we left Israel because it was too intense and the control was so freaky and scary. And I felt like a refugee. I would have sat on the floor of the plane to get out. They closed the borders. They wouldn't let you out. You had to apply and they denied it. I mean, total totalitarian, unbelievable. And I never knew that when I came here. But I was my nervous system before thinking they canceled our tickets, they declined our application. Like before I left here and for about a month or two after, was so hyped up that I was calling healers in the middle of the night. I couldn't, I could barely stay in my body. Like I really got scared. So it's really easy to be triggered, but that's why it is so absolutely crucial. And this is where I want to go. And this is where I want to finish with this. What's in our court right now, what every soul here is here for right now, where the only power that we have is right now, the only real power, because God's orchestrating all of this. But it's on behalf of our metamorphosis. So when we can even begin to allow for the reality that we're holding the end of that rope and that everything, there are many other sources for this. I've just never seen it explained so clearly and so poignantly and so deeply. But we're holding the end of that rope, and anything that we experience in life, we have a choice of either being a victim of it, meaning getting really upset, being scared, being angry. All those things are normal and natural, and we do have to go through those things. They're, it's part of being human. But then what? And this applies to anything in your life. It's not just big things in the world. It's anything. It's a relationship you have. It's your body. It's your feelings. It's your emotions. It's your money. Are we going to be a victim and either ignore God, deny God, beg God, be mad at God, plead with God, be afraid of God? Or are we going to go deeper? Because this level of the Torah, it's Torah Toshel Mashiach, it's designed to give us access to our divine power, to our souls, the core of the souls, that's divine essence. And it takes work. And this is the ultimate work that God was taking pleasure from before the creation, that propelled him to create everything and to keep it being created at every instant from then until now, only because of the pleasure of what you are going to accomplish as you unwind the snake voice, unwind the helplessness, unwind the reactivity by embracing it and loving it, but understanding more deeply, this is here to awaken me. This is here to activate my power, my God power, to co-create, and primarily by showing a different image into the water, a different face into the water of the Orion Sofa, which then imprints itself and becomes part of God's light and automatically brings a new reality through all of the chain of creation down into the physical world, including governments, including corporations. The power is here. There is no power but God. I wrote an email today, and this was the major point of it, that there's no other power but God, and there's no other being who gets to operate that power but you. And anything that happens in the world, whether it's AI, whether it's the triumph, the apparent triumph of the wicked, which the Torah talks about way back, it started with Nimrod, really it started with fallen angels, really it started with the snake, really it started with God's plan, but we're here to unwind it. And that's the bottom line. So what can you do? What do you need to do? What's keeping you in victimhood? I'm asking myself this too. I've spent the last day and a half after Shavuos, my one and only goal for yesterday, today, maybe tomorrow, is to make a plan by which I can keep my mind on track, where I can remember what reality is and go deeper into it, where I can hold the vision of what I want, or at least go back to it fairly quickly with more power when I get derailed into what I don't want. Because that's the big enemy. That is the number one. That is the other part of the secret. The big enemy, the biggest enemy we have, is getting derailed into what we don't want, because then we create more of it. Not when we take effective action. That's not what I mean. But when you take effective action, which is also super important. The action's super important. This is a world of action. But are we taking action based on fear, helplessness, victimhood, don't want, or even should or need? And that's going to keep creating that, keep us locked in that vicious circle of more of the same. Usually gets worse. Again, this is your personal life as well as the world. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. It's a fractal principle of creation, the deepest. Or are we going to visit what we don't want, then use that as a springboard to connect deep into what do I actually want? If there was no deep state, if I could change this with my thoughts, with my words, with my aligned actions, with my prayers, what would that feel like? What would that feel like to know that I have that power? I'm feeling it right now as I'm asking the question. And then if I felt like that and I knew that, what would I do? And to really sit and dig in, and what's the plan, and to feel that vibration of the desire fulfilled, that power in your hands, to really feel it. And what do you do with it to feel it all the way? And then to start taking those actions. And you will get derailed, because that's the way it's designed. You'll get derailed. You'll go back into the don't want, the fear, the victimhood, the blaming, the fury, the helplessness, the terror, the grief. But then that's where the choice comes in. That's where we need to remember that God is waiting for you. God created the world in such a way. Aller Bitsono, it arose in his desire, the deepest expression of essence, because it's rooted in his essence that the initiation would always come from here, that the face and the arousal that comes from the human being, from the soul in this physical world, will create a reciprocal reflection that will come down in a reality. And if that's true, let me just ask you, and if you're willing to share, not so many people are sharing, but I'd love to hear from more of you. Thank you if you are sharing. Hi, Mei Lee. Anyway, if you believe that was true, what would you do after I'm going to leave the live soon. What would you do? What would you do? What would you do differently? So I'm asking myself that question. I've got a couple notebooks out, and I am writing, and I am analyzing, and I'm meditating, and I'm praying, and I'm asking, it's a new energy that came in this Shavuos, a new giving of the Torah. The Torah is the blueprint for creation. The last piece, so what will you do? What would you do? And listen, the first stage of creating a new reality is engaging. So take a little risk and answer the question, or share a reason why you're not, or don't. But if you do, you walk away different. If you don't, you might walk away inspired, but it doesn't really go anywhere. First, feel my heart before I speak or act. Thank you, Gila. So the more we choose to see Hashem behind the beautiful and comfortable things, the more Hashem is reflected into the world visibly. Yeah, but you want to see Hashem? Yes, but you also want to see that everything is Hashem, and that everything that doesn't look beautiful right now and that isn't comfortable is designed to bring out a deeper part of you. That infinite, inexorable, invincible divine power that is in your hands. It's always been in our hands. We just didn't know it. We were deliberately programmed not to have access to it. But the fact that we know this now, or can know it now, that is just because of where we are in history. Beautiful and uncomfortable. Yeah. Because we are here in history where we've evolved to the state that the butterfly is ready to emerge, right? From the caterpillar. But if you still think you're a caterpillar, and if they constantly feel the thread of the foot stamping on your head, you're not going to get up and fly. I mean, maybe I overuse the metaphor, but I can't think of a better one. So I'm literally asking myself, as I was studying this with my friend on Shavuos, I'm literally asking myself and her, I know some of this. Maybe I didn't know it on this deep level, but I know that when I use tools that keep pushing my mind out of the negative, out of what I don't want into what I do want, I teach this too. So I know it works. So why do I forget? Why do I complain? Why do I let it go? Like what? And then the next question is, that's not such a useful question. Sometimes it is, but the more useful question is, what can I do with God's help from now on to not forget anymore, to just go deeper into my desire and what I want to create, which, guess what you want at your core is also what God wants. So it's already here, hovering beneath the surface. It just it can't emerge into the physical until our consciousness is aligned with it. We have to receive. Why? Because that's the way God created it. Why? Because that's what rose in his will. Why? Because that's the pleasure that he's getting in his essence. Why? Because that's where we come from. We are part of that. With whom did God consult before creating this whole crazy system? Us, our souls. We just forgot, which we also, that's also part of the game. So now it's time to remember. Little curl popping over my head. Now it's time to remember. So yeah, that's basically what I wanted to say. So so again, I'll leave you with the question. Not too many people responded. I'm not sure why. But for your own sake, whether on the chat or in your own heart, if you really not only believed, if you were willing to allow for that this is the truth, that God created the universe, the multiverse, in such a way that people initiate and God responds, that the closer you are to your panim, again, panim, the phrase, the verse is, kamayim panim lepanim, kain lev ha'adam el ha'adam. So when the face, panim, means face, but it also means your inward self. So the person who is more connected to their inward self automatically is going to have more reflective power in the Orion Sofa. That's first of all. The person who's more connected to their deep heart, Kain Leita Adam Ela Adam, is going to have more power to influence the heart of God, of others. And then the Rebbe said that that is why the ultimate way to bring the Geula is Biru Nefesh Bahamis, which literally means the elevation and rectification, sifting through of the animal soul, or the identity, the personality, which is why we count Sphira, why we count the Omer. And then the Rebbe said specifically that to be maximally effective, it has to be with love. And then he talked about, I'm not going to go into the details here, but he talked about the levels. As we do this, the separations, the curtains, the parsaot, The world, with God created the world, from the Orion Sofa, it had to be the contraction and concealment of the infinite light, called the Tzimtzum, in order to make the Halal, the womb of creation, in which creation could take place, and a new gradiated light shone into that Halal. I know I'm not really teaching you. I'm just saying. But the way that creation works is at every level, every world, from the ultimate infinite God, divine light, God light, to the highest worlds of the highest angels and souls, to the lower worlds, there are myriad gradations. And in every place between the higher and the lower, there's a parsa, there's a curtain or separation. And then a little bit of that light pokes through, either straight or distorted. So as we do this work to to rectify, to purify, to elevate the animal soul, the identity, the personality, the ego, the human part of us, we are making more transparent those parsaot, those curtains or block or screens or whatever that are separating us between the deeper and deeper and deeper levels of ourselves. There are myriad worlds within you too. It's not just your physical or your spiritual. There are levels upon levels upon levels of consciousness and spirituality and godliness. Spirituality is not godliness. Physical and spiritual are just two ways that God expresses, but there's something much deeper. So as we work on our own reactivity, on our own ability to perceive, to look deeper, which is happening automatically, but we want to lean into it, understanding the template. The Torah is here to bring peace to the world. The Torah is here to usher us through this process, especially the mystical Torah, Torah Toshel Mashiach. That's what it's called. Authentic Kabbalah, Chassidus. So as we do that, we're dissolving those parsaot within ourselves so that more of the soul shines through. And once the soul shines through, that deepest secret desire of the soul that is imprinted in the core of the heart, not the reactive heart, the creative heart, the connected heart, that is the level of, it's called Ruta Deliba. That is the level that will ultimately bring down the Orion Sofa all the way down into the world, that will reveal God here in a world of heaven on earth. It's no joke, you guys. That's why all this is happening. We've been waiting a long time. God's been waiting a long time too. And without consciousness, we will have consciousness. There's no option, because our consciousness, because God is already this system. Maybe it's a stretch to say that, maybe it's not, but because it rose in his will and it's from his essence, this is the way it is, that God put the power in our hands. So as long as we don't have consciousness, we're going to keep running around with that rope, messing things up majorly. So God is facilitating a shaking process, an uprooting process, so that which is having the result of having us look deeper, whether that's looking deeper and seeing that your government lied to you, or looking deeper and seeing that, this thing was not designed for what they said it was, quite the opposite, or whether it's, whatever it is, it coming with that is the ability to see deeper into spirituality, to see deeper into energy. Many of us are experiencing this, and it's only the beginning. But at any point, we can decide, each one of us can decide. And I don't think it takes so many, but I think it takes deep and consistent. We can decide that I'm not going to be run around by these events anymore. I'm going to stay on focus, and to know that if I'm co-creating, I am above the world and shining down into it, not in the world and being a subject to it. And at any point we can decide that. And when we act accordingly, which is where the work comes in, because we get triggered and we are unconscious. But when we're on that path, we get divine help. And God's waiting for us. The way he has it set up, he can't do it without us. Think about it. So if you knew that the power is in your hands, if you knew that everything in your life and everything in your world can be directly and profoundly influenced by you, to the degree that you can align your mind with it and align your soul and your heart with it, and connect with God in it as a co-creator, that's the degree to which your supernatural power will be activated and influence everything. Up and down. Don't go horizontal, go vertical. Because that's what works. Horizontal will never work. Not in any meaningful way. Not anymore. Because this is what we're here for. We're here to connect to our deepest essence, our deepest source. So if that were the case, if you knew that were the case, if you knew that you could focus on what you want, and when you get triggered by what you don't want, go deeper and focus more on what you do want, with the resonance of, yes, this is real, I want this, like tasting, salivating because you're tasting your favorite food in your mouth. That's what desire feels like. One form of desire. You feel it in your body. So when you're feeling that and you're aligned, you're imprinting in the Orion Sofa and you're changing the course of the universe. If that were true, what would you do? And what would you stop doing? That's the real question for all of us. And that's the question that I'm on. You guys saying? I'm looking at the chat now. Each one of us has gold within our body. Interesting. I love gold. Hi, Katie. Hi, Vanessa. I'd walk forward in confidence, living the reality I want to manifest. I think that's really what it is. That and learn the deep Torah. Those two things. I don't think there's anything else we have to do. That's enough of a job, right? But that's the path. And that's what everything here is designed to get us to do. Shake up and wake up, right? But it'll take as long as it takes, or as short as we make it take. Panemius is our core. Hi, Kabbalah Queen. I've been able to see Hashem in so much more in my day-to-day life since Shavuos. Me too, Orly. It's only a day and a half, but so far, so good. You could listen to the recording as soon as we're done, Katie. Ein od milvado. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna leave it here, unless there's any kind of question or you guys have anything else to say. If you like the video, please subscribe, and please share. I took a long break. That is, by the way, that is my big Achilles heel, because when I get triggered by something, sometimes it takes me, or when I just have to get distracted and busy and I stop being consistent and showing up, I never want to show up ever again. So it's a stretch for me. So I haven't really built up anything near what I could in any area of life. So you can help me out if you want to, and yourself and other people, by sharing this. This is divine information, and it's information that we need to have, and it's information the world needs us to have. So subscribe, share, and follow me on whatever, and that will really help. Hi, Shoshana. Yeah. Hi, Allison. Yeah. So you guys, listen again if you didn't hear the whole thing. Listen again if you did hear the whole thing. Share it and really meditate on what it. We'll just leave it with this last question. Maybe it's the same question I've been asking already. What would be different if you knew that you have the power? Not that you can just say and it happens, not yet. The power, the amount of conscious power that we have over reality depends upon how much we are aligned in our thought, speech, action, vibration with what we truly desire. Maybe I didn't say that before, so that's super important. So the work is to align. And what tools, can you get and master and keep using in order to keep that alignment going? Because we all get triggered, and we can all go back to our go-to: anxiety, depression, anger, fear, sadness. It's a trap. We'll visit it, but you get to decide whether you're going to live there and furnish that place, or whether you're going to, break the lease and start to build something else. And really, this is exactly what I'm saying to myself and why I'm so hyper-focused. I'm hyper-focused. You don't see it, but I've got 2 notebooks on that table, and I'm writing, and meditating, praying, because I don't want to lose focus anymore. The time's too short for that. The stakes are too great. And anyway, if I can really lean into this more and more, I can have an incredible experience and incredible influence, which I want. So what is it that's keeping me from doing that? What is keeping you guys from doing it? It's just the voice of the snake. Mostly unconscious. It's just old traumas. It's just the satisfying feeling of feeling like, you're right and everyone else is wrong. That's a big trap, even if it's true. It's unlikely to be true that everyone else is wrong, but even if you're more right than the average person, so now what are you going to do with that? What do you want to have happen? And are you beating up the thing you want to have happen, or are you supporting it and, nurturing it? Like everybody should be, it should be. That's exactly the way to get exactly what you don't want. And we've had enough of that, haven't we? That's what happens, starting with, Adam and Eve eating from the tree of knowledge, Cain and Abel, one killed the other because, and then it just went on and got worse, or at least got bigger, more entangled. Would you become a fanatic? Because it's about, okay, maybe I need to just clarify this. It's not only about doing spiritual things. It's about, if you want a world which is full of love and joy, how can you experience love and joy? It's not only how you can make other people loving and joy, give people love and experience, help them experience joy. That's important too. But as a natural expression, not instead of you, with you. So what is keeping you from experiencing love and joy? There are many tools and techniques that can shift our energy and our mood pretty quickly. And as we do them consistently, again, this is what I'm working with now, as we do them consistently, they actually change the way that they change the default of the brain, and it takes a lot more to trigger you. What's happened to me is I've used some of these tools, even over months, started to feel blissful in my everyday, and then started to coast and stop doing the work. And then, so no more of that. No more of that. So wherever you are, what do you want to experience? What's the thing you want the most in the world? And if you're saying, money, or you're saying love, why? What would it bring out in you? What would be good if you had that? What would open up for you if you had that? And once you get to an answer that makes you lean forward and feel that energy in your body, that is like yeah, that. Yes, that's a desire. And then how can you align with it? What have you been doing to complain about not having it, which creates the opposite, or been a victim of forces that don't allow you to experience it, which creates the opposite? You've been creating all along. Now it's time to make it consciousness. Now it's time to, and how do we do that? Conscious. We align our thought, speech, action, habits, behaviors, what we use to nurture our mind, the people that we hang around with, the thoughts that we allow ourselves to entertain, what we invest in, our time, our money, our heart, that it should be in alignment with what we want, not in opposition to what we don't. And sometimes, you start from the darkness. Within the darkness, within what you don't want is what you do want. But the vibration, when you're in the side, when you're in the side of what you don't want, the vibration of that is going to create more of what you don't want. When the emotional resonance, the thought process, the words, when you're on the side of what you do want, then the vibration of that will bring that. And that's the face that you're showing to the Orion self. And that's what's catalyzing every moment of the future, is how we experience the present and the past. Okay. Take care, guys. Oh, tomorrow I'm coming on with either Ani and Gila. I have to hear back from Gila. I think at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. No, that's Israel time. 9 a.m. Eastern. And then the next day, I have a special guest, Rachel Albert. She was in the summit. She teaches she trains healers to do a Torah-based kosher energy healing that is phenomenally effective. And I'm going to be doing a 4-part series of discussions with her on Wednesday, starting this Wednesday, and then we'll see what happens from there. So hopefully I'm back. At least I'm back at this moment. And I hope to be able to stay in my momentum this time. I got to do the same work you have to do, or get to do. It's a choice. Does this mean all we have is a reflection of our sins and our decisions, rather right, or our lives are a combination of all our past and present? Yes, to a degree, but everything, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but beyond the scope of this live. It's a great question. You want to know that everything that you did was designed to transform the caterpillar part of you, the darkness, into light, even what you call sin, even the mistakes. So after the fact, and this is tricky, but after the fact, when something happened, you have to know that it was meant to be, even if you need to learn from it, which we always do, or make amends, which we often do, to others, to ourselves, to God. But you have to know at the end of the day also that Yerida L'Tzarech Aliyah, that any mistake, sin, falling off the wagon is all meant to be. How do we know that? Because it happened. That's only for the past, not the future. Future, we assume we have full free choice. Do we have full free choice? No. but we have more and more free choice as we align more and more with our panim, with our panimiut, our inner selves, and that we do by this kind of work. So you can totally reprogram with new ideas, but whatever happened has been leading you where you have to go anyway. It's just been leading you through a hard path. That's why God put the snake in a garden. Because while we are growing and moving toward redemption, we're meant to be transforming darkness into light, which gives us more and more access to our divine power. These are very complex ideas that I do teach and I do marinate in like deeply, but it's too much to try to explain them in detail how it works in one class, much, even in 20 or 30 or 40. I do have a school that you can check out from my website, gateofunity.com. But you know that it's all going in the right direction after the fact. After the fact, you should care about what happened to do what you can to make corrections, but with love, because guilt only leads to more of the same. So know that it was all meant to be, and love yourself and make those corrections out of love and self-love and understanding that it's all taking you where you need to go. That's to Viggy and everybody. And yeah, we have to reprogram with new ideas. That's what we're doing here. Hi, Nancy. Keeping before my eyes constantly, what is my purpose for this particular time? What is my purpose and how can I align with it in my actual real self? So we can experience purpose, which I did for decades, as outside of ourselves, and we have to give ourselves up to live our purpose, or we can experience purpose as the outside is connected to the inside. And if I want happiness for someone else, how much happiness am I allowing and aligning with myself? If I want a world of peace, how much peace am I working to allow in myself? This is the work of the rectification of the animal soul and the ego-based identity. This is the deep inner work, the trauma work, the rewiring, work, the many tools and techniques for this, and also the learning of the mystical Torah, which automatically rewires the brain and opens the brain to divine consciousness from outside and from inside. No joke. That's the work right now. And how much can you immerse yourself? How much can I immerse myself? That's the question I'm asking since Shavuos, and the answer is a lot more than I've been doing. And how aligned your vessels are, your conscious, subconscious, cells, nervous system, intentions, visualizations, daily habits, the food you eat, the reason you eat the food, the thoughts, the words you say to yourself, the words you say to others, the information you take in that causes absolute vibration in your body instantly. Feel it. Turn on something that is fear-based, but be sensitive. Do it when you feel peace and see what happens to your body right away. We don't even notice. We're so desensitized most of the time. So how aligned can you be with what you desire on every level? And to the degree that you are aligned, that is the degree to which you have that influence, that your inwardness, your face will be bringing down redemption, the future, in miraculous and beautiful and amazing ways. Nobody has to be hurt. Nobody has to die. Nobody has to suffer, to the degree that we can get it together and start up-leveling things. That's the power that we have. Okay, now I'm really leaving.